She humiliated my mother for 15 years without knowing who I was. On her promotion day, I revealed everything. Do you really think anyone here will believe you? Patricia Langston's words cut through the air of the conference room like shattered glass. Her blue eyes, cold as ice, were fixed on the young black woman sitting across the mahogany table. Nina Carter, 29, kept her hand still on the folder of documents in her lap. 2 years. She had waited 2 years for this moment. 2 years smiling, serving coffee, organizing schedules, swallowing every venomous comment, all to get here. How long have you been my assistant? 2 years. Patricia leaned forward, a cruel smile playing on her perfectly painted red lips. And now, right during the week of my CEO promotion, you show up with these ridiculous accusations? The conference room on the 47th floor of Meridian Corp had a view of all of Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a gray November sky. Inside, only the 2 women and a silence heavy as lead. These aren't accusations, Mrs. Langston. Nina's voice came out steady, almost serene. They're facts. Patricia let out a dry laugh. Facts? Sweetheart, you're an assistant. A good assistant, I'll admit, but still just an assistant. You have no power, no influence, nothing. Who's going to believe the word of a? She paused, her eyes scanning Nina from head to toe with barely disguised contempt. Junior employee against a woman who built this company. What Patricia Langston didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that Nina Carter wasn't there by accident. 15 years ago, on a rainy September afternoon, a 14-year-old girl came home and found her mother on the kitchen floor. Denise Carter, 38, HR manager at Meridian Corp, was curled up between the refrigerator and stove, sobbing uncontrollably. That morning, she had been escorted out of the building by security. Accused of embezzling funds from the company's diversity program. Fired for cause. Her 12-year career destroyed in a single meeting. The accuser? Patricia Langston, then director of operations, who took the position Denise was about to occupy. Nina never forgot the sound of her mother's sobs. Never forgot the years that followed, the depression, the medications, the failed attempts to find work, the shame that consumed a once strong woman. You know what's interesting, Mrs. Langston? Nina opened the folder slowly. You're right. I'm just an assistant. Nobody notices me. Nobody pays attention to me. She placed a document on the table. That's why nobody noticed when I accessed the HR files from 2009. Patricia's smile faltered. Or when I found the original audit report, the real one, not the one you altered. The color began draining from Patricia's face. Or when I discovered that the money embezzled from the diversity program ended up in an account in the Cayman Islands. An account that, curiously, was closed 2 weeks after Denise Carter was fired. Nina placed another document on the table. Denise Carter. Does that name mean anything to you? Patricia didn't respond. Her hands, always so controlled, gripped the edge of the table. She was my mother. The silence that followed was absolute. You destroyed her life, Mrs. Langston. You stole the money, falsified the evidence, and let an innocent woman carry the blame for 15 years. Nina stood, her voice still calm but now carrying something deeper. My mother spent the last 15 years on antidepressants. She lost her house, her marriage, her will to live. All because you wanted a promotion. Patricia finally found her voice. You have no proof of anything. These are old documents, easily forged. My lawyers will. Your lawyers will be very busy. Nina walked toward the door. Because in exactly 72 hours, at the shareholders' meeting where you were supposed to be announced as the new CEO, some very interesting people will show up. People you thought you had silenced. People who saw what you did. Nina opened the door but paused at the threshold. Oh, and Mrs. Langston? Does the name Gloria Mendez mean anything to you? The former secretary you fired 1 week after my mother. Patricia went completely pale. She kept copies of everything. Audio recordings, emails, memos. 15 years of silence, waiting for the right moment. Nina smiled for the first time. It seems that moment has arrived. As she walked down the corridor toward the elevator, Nina felt the weight of 15 years beginning to lift from her shoulders. In her pocket, her phone vibrated. A message from a number she knew well. Is it done? She typed quickly, the bait has been cast. She'll try to destroy the evidence tonight. Be ready. On the other side of the city, Marcus Langston, Patricia's son and Meridian Corp CFO, read the message and closed his eyes. For years, he had suspected his mother was hiding secrets. For years, he had pretended not to see the signs. But when Nina approached him 6 months ago with the first evidence, he knew he could no longer stay silent. His own mother. The woman he admired. The woman who had built an empire on the ruins of innocent lives. What Patricia didn't know was that the cameras in her office, cameras she herself had installed to monitor employees, were now being monitored by very different people. And what would happen in the next 72 hours would destroy not only her promotion but the entire castle of lies she had built over 2 decades. If this story of secrets and justice has captured your attention, subscribe to the channel to discover what Patricia Langston did when she realized her own assistant was the daughter of the woman she destroyed, and why her son decided to turn against his own mother. The next 72 hours were a chess game played in the shadows. Nina knew Patricia wouldn't sit still. Women like her didn't reach the top by stepping on corpses only to simply accept defeat. She would react. The question was how. The answer came faster than Nina expected. The morning after the confrontation, Nina arrived at the office to find her desk empty. Her computer, her files, her personal belongings, everything had disappeared. In their place, only a white envelope with the Meridian Corp logo. Termination letter for cause, she read quietly. Breach of confidentiality. Unauthorized access to classified documents. Patricia wasn't just trying to silence her. She was trying to destroy her the same way she had destroyed her mother. The security guard who escorted her out didn't even look her in the eye. Colleagues passing by averted their gaze. In less than 24 hours, Nina had become exactly what her mother was 15 years ago, a criminal in everyone's eyes. But unlike Denise, Nina was prepared. She took the bait, Nina said on the phone, walking through Manhattan's cold streets. Exactly like you said she would. Marcus's voice sounded tense on the other end. She spent all night in the office. The cameras caught everything. She accessed the old servers, tried to delete files, made calls to at least 3 people. Who? The former IT director who tampered with the evidence in 2009. The accountant who moved the money to the Cayman Islands. And Marcus hesitated. And my father. Nina stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Your father knows everything? Apparently, he helped cover it up. They've been married for 35 years, Nina. Did you really think he didn't know anything? The revelation hurt more than Nina expected. It wasn't just Patricia. It was an entire system of complicity that had crushed her mother. There's more, Marcus continued. She hired a private investigator to investigate you and your mother. She's looking for something to use against you. Let her look. Nina resumed walking. My mother didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to find. What about you? She might try to incriminate you in other ways. Plant evidence, fabricate testimony. That's why we need to act fast. Nina entered a cafe and sat at the back table. The shareholders' meeting is in 48 hours. Is Gloria ready? More than ready. She's waited 15 years for this. On the other side of the city, in a small apartment in Queens, Gloria Mendez, now 73, was meticulously organizing a folder full of yellow documents. She had been an executive secretary at Meridian Corp for 22 years. She watched Patricia Langston rise from intern to director. She saw every lie, every manipulation, every life destroyed along the way. When Denise Carter was accused, Gloria knew the truth. She had seen Patricia altering documents in her office at 11 p.m., 2 days before Denise was fired. She had overheard conversations she wasn't meant to hear. But she was 58, had a sick husband, and no savings. Staying quiet was the only option. But before being fired, 1 week after Denise, when Patricia realized she knew too much, Gloria made copies of everything. Emails, memos, meeting recordings. And she kept them in a box at the back of her closet, waiting for a day she thought would never come. Until 6 months ago, when a young black woman appeared at her door. You're Denise's daughter, Gloria had said, tears already flowing before Nina finished introducing herself. I always knew this day would come. Now, sitting in her modest apartment, Gloria held a photograph of Denise from 2009, smiling confident, at the peak of her career. I failed you, she murmured to the photo. But I won't fail your daughter. At Meridian Corp, Patricia Langston was working feverishly in her office. She had called all her contacts, called in old favors, hired the best lawyers. But something bothered her. Nina had been too calm, too controlled, as if she knew exactly what Patricia would do. It's a trap, she muttered to herself. She wants me to destroy the evidence, wants me to panic. But then, why reveal everything before the meeting? Why give 72 hours warning? Unless... Patricia felt a chill run down her spine. Unless the evidence Nina mentioned wasn't the real evidence. Unless there was something more. Something she didn't know. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Who is this? Silence. And then a voice she hadn't heard in 15 years. Hello, Patricia. Patricia's blood froze. Denise. Surprised to hear from me? You thought I was dead, didn't you? Everyone thought so. After all, that's what you told everyone, that I was so destroyed I probably killed myself. Patricia couldn't speak. Her throat had closed. I wanted to die, Patricia. Many times. You took everything from me. My career, my marriage, my dignity. I spent 15 years wondering what I did wrong to deserve that. Denise's voice, once trembling, now gained strength. But my daughter showed me the truth. And now, for the first time in 15 years, I know I did nothing wrong. You did. You stole, you lied, you destroyed lives to get where you are. Denise, listen, we can work this out. I can compensate you. Money, whatever you need. We don't have to. Don't have to what? Seek justice. Denise let out a bitter laugh. It's too late for that, Patricia. 15 years too late. The call ended. Patricia stared at the phone in her trembling hand. In her entire career, in all the battles she had won, she had never truly felt fear. Until now. What she didn't know was that the call had been recorded. And in 48 hours, every word of that conversation would be heard by all of Meridian Corp's shareholders. The board was set. The pieces were in motion. And Patricia Langston, for the first time in her life, was no longer the player. She was the prey. The conference hall on the 50th floor of Meridian Corp was packed. 120 shareholders, board members, senior executives, and financial journalists occupied every available seat. On stage, a mahogany table with microphones and crystal water glasses. Behind it, a giant screen with the company logo. Patricia Langston entered at 9 a.m. sharp, impeccable in her dark gray Chanel suit. Hair perfectly styled. Makeup flawless. The rehearsed smile of someone about to conquer the world. But her eyes told another story. Poorly concealed dark circles. An almost imperceptible tremor in her hands. 2 sleepless nights trying to erase tracks that, she now suspected, had already been copied. Ladies and gentlemen, the board chairman took the microphone. It is with great pleasure that we announce the new CEO of Meridian Corp. Patricia stood, ready for her moment of glory. That's when the back doors opened. Nina Carter entered first, wearing a simple but elegant navy blue dress. Behind her, an elderly woman with gray hair, Gloria Mendez. And behind Gloria, leaning on a cane but with her head held high, was Denise Carter. The murmur that swept through the hall was immediate. Security! Patricia screamed, her composure finally cracking. These people aren't authorized to be here. Actually, they are. Marcus Langston rose from his seat in the front row. His face was pale, but his voice was firm. As CFO and board member, I invited them. Patricia looked at her son as if he had stabbed her in the back. Marcus, what are you doing? What I should have done years ago, mother. He walked to the stage and took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, before we vote on the new CEO, there's information everyone needs to know. This is ridiculous. Patricia advanced toward her son. It's a setup. That woman, she pointed at Nina, was fired for stealing confidential documents. I didn't steal anything. Nina climbed onto the stage with unshakable calm. I simply found what you hid for 15 years. Marcus connected a flash drive to the projection system. The screen lit up. The first document appeared, an audit report from 2009. Two reports, actually, side by side. One showed irregularities in Denise Carter's account. The other, the original, showed that the irregularities came from a completely different account. On the left, the report presented to the board in 2009, Marcus explained. On the right, the original report, before it was altered. The metadata proves that the tampered version was created on Patricia Langston's computer. The murmur turned into commotion. That's a lie. Patricia screamed. These documents are fake. The second document appeared, bank statements from a Cayman Islands account. Regular deposits between 2008 and 2010, totaling $2.3 million. The account holder's name was blurred, but the correspondence address was clear, the Langston Summer House in Connecticut. Money embezzled from the company's diversity program, Marcus continued. The same program Denise Carter supposedly stole from. Patricia looked around, searching for allies. The faces she found showed shock, disgust, and in some cases, fear. That's when Gloria Mendez climbed onto the stage. My name is Gloria Mendez. I worked at this company for 22 years. I was fired 1 week after Denise Carter, because Patricia Langston knew I had seen too much. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. From rage contained for 15 years. I saw Patricia altering documents in her office at 11 p.m., 2 days before Denise was fired. I heard her on the phone, arranging how to transfer the money. And I kept evidence. The third item wasn't a document. It was an audio recording. Patricia's voice, 15 years younger but unmistakable, filled the hall. Is the money in the account? Great. Now we need a scapegoat. Carter is perfect. Everyone knows she was eyeing my position. When this blows up, no one will believe her. The silence that followed was sepulchral. Patricia opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her face had lost all color. She stumbled backward, clutching the table as if the floor were collapsing beneath her feet. And there's more. Nina stepped forward. Last night, when she realized we were closing in, Patricia called 3 people trying to destroy evidence and coordinate alibis. The fourth item appeared, the transcript of the call Denise had made, and recorded. Denise, listen, we can work this out. I can compensate you. Money, whatever you need. Bribery, said Nina. Recorded and dated yesterday. Attempted obstruction of justice. The board chairman stood, his face red with fury. Mrs. Langston, on behalf of this board, you are immediately suspended from all duties while we conduct an internal investigation. No. Patricia finally found her voice. You can't do this. I built this company. I gave 25 years of my life. You built this company on lies and destroyed lives, said Denise Carter, climbing onto the stage for the first time. Mother and daughter stood side by side, facing the woman who had tried to destroy them. 15 years ago, you took everything from me, Denise continued. My career, my reputation, my mental health. You made me believe I was a criminal. That I deserved what happened. Her voice caught, but she continued. My daughter was 14 when she found me crying on the kitchen floor. She grew up watching her mother sink into depression. She worked 2 jobs to support us while I could barely get out of bed. Nina held her mother's hand. And yet, Denise straightened her shoulders, she never gave up. She planned, studied, waited. She infiltrated your world and found the truth you tried to bury. Denise looked directly into Patricia's eyes. You tried to destroy me, Patricia. But the only thing you managed to do was create the person who would destroy you. Patricia collapsed into the chair, tears finally streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Not tears of remorse, tears of defeat. Of a woman who finally realized the empire she built was crumbling around her. As company security approached to escort her out, Patricia looked one last time at Nina. How? She whispered. How did you manage it? Nina leaned in and responded quietly, just for her to hear. You taught me. 2 years as your assistant. I learned from the best. 3 years later. Nina pushed the shopping cart down the supermarket aisle, her phone wedged between her shoulder and ear. Yes, Mom, I know it's Grandma's birthday. I already bought the cake. No, not chocolate, strawberry, like she likes. On the other end of the line, Denise laughed, a sound Nina still wasn't used to hearing, even after 3 years. Her mother had changed completely. The medications were gradually reduced. Therapy, which once seemed useless, finally started working when Denise no longer carried the weight of guilt that was never hers. She had even gone back to work, part-time, at an NGO that helped women who were victims of workplace harassment. "I'll be there in an hour," said Nina. "Oh, and guess who called me today? Marcus. Patricia's son? The same. His consulting firm is doing well. He wants me to be a partner. Are you going to accept?" Nina smiled. "I'll think about it. But first, strawberry cake." She hung up and turned the corner toward the bakery. And stopped. Behind the deli counter, wearing a moss green apron and a hairnet, was Patricia Langston. Or what remained of her. The woman who once commanded meetings worth millions of dollars was now slicing ham for impatient customers. Her hair, once impeccably styled, was gray and tied up haphazardly. The hands that signed billion-dollar contracts now trembled slightly while operating the machine. The Meridian Corp investigation had revealed more than just Denise's case. 2 decades of fraud, embezzlement, and destroyed lives came to light. Patricia wasn't imprisoned. Lawyers managed settlements, repayments, astronomical fines. But she lost everything. The fortune, the career, the reputation. And the family. Marcus had cut ties with his mother the day after the assembly. Her husband, when he discovered the extent of the lies, filed for divorce. Friends disappeared as soon as the headlines started. Patricia Langston, 55, now lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Bronx and worked in the deli section of a supermarket to pay the bills. Nina could have walked away. Could have turned down another aisle and pretended she didn't see her. But she didn't. She walked to the counter and waited her turn. When Patricia looked up and recognized her, all the blood drained from her face. Her hands stopped moving. For a moment, the 2 women just looked at each other. "Good afternoon," said Nina, her voice neutral. 200 grams of turkey breast, please." Patricia swallowed hard. Her eyes were watery, but she didn't cry. Maybe she had no more tears. Or maybe she had cried them all in the last 3 years. With trembling hands, she weighed the turkey breast and wrapped it. "Anything else?" Her voice came out hoarse, almost unrecognizable. "No, thank you." Nina took the package. And then, before leaving, she said something Patricia would never have expected to hear. "I hope you find peace, Mrs. Langston. I really do." Patricia looked at her, confused, suspicious, waiting for the final blow that never came. "Why?" she whispered. Nina thought for a moment. "Because carrying hatred is too heavy. I carried it for 15 years. It was my mother's hatred, which I inherited without realizing. But now she's free. And so am I." She placed the package in the cart. "What you did was unforgivable. You destroyed lives out of ambition. But the punishment you're living now, it doesn't bring me joy. Only sadness. For who you could have been if you had chosen a different path." Nina turned her back and walked toward the checkout. Patricia stood still, watching the young woman walk away. The woman she had underestimated. The woman who had brought down her empire. The woman who, even now, refused to be consumed by the same poison that had destroyed Patricia. That night, at Grandma's small birthday party, Nina watched her mother laughing at a silly joke from the neighbor. Denise was wearing a floral dress. She never wore colors before, always black, always hiding. But now she glowed. "What are you thinking about?" asked Denise, sitting next to her daughter. "About how things have changed." "They really have." Denise held Nina's hand. "You saved me, you know? Not just by clearing my name. You gave me back my will to live." Nina rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "We saved each other." The strawberry cake was cut. "Happy Birthday" was sung. Laughter filled the small apartment that 3 years ago had been a stage for silence and depression. The best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt us. It's building a life so full, so filled with love and purpose, that the pain of the past becomes just a distant memory. Patricia Langston had lost everything trying to be more than she was. Nina Carter had achieved everything simply by being who she always was, her mother's daughter. And sometimes, that's enough. If this story of patience and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to remember that the truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way. Have you ever faced someone who seemed untouchable? Tell us in the comments, because stories of overcoming deserve to be heard.